You've seen the signs in apologies that sound more like rehearsals. You just never knew they were signs, because no one ever taught you the language of power. But Machiavelli would. He'd show you how every gesture is a confession. This isn't advice. It is a cold dissection of human behavior, split into 3 precise incisions. If you skip around or half watch, you'll miss what makes this actually work. But if you stay, by the end, you'll know exactly how to read people, not just their faces, but their motives, and even the parts they haven't admitted to themselves yet. They taught you to trust the voice, not the tension behind it. They said listen to words, but never warned you that words are the most socially acceptable form of camouflage. People don't speak from clarity, they speak from defense, from the need to belong. What you meet in conversation is rarely a person. It's a shield, a carefully rehearsed performance wrapped in tone and polite deception. The one who flatters too quickly fears abandonment. The one who dominates the room is begging, silently, not to be seen collapsing. And the tragedy? Most don't even know they're lying. Because they've been wearing the script so long, they think it's who they are. Machiavelli wouldn't be surprised. He knew people don't mask themselves to deceive others. They mask themselves to survive themselves. So when you speak to someone, understand this. You're not meeting them. You're meeting the part of them that kept them safe the longest. And if you confuse that with truth, you'll be manipulated before they even know they're doing it. They'll never admit it. But everyone leaks, not through what they say, through what they avoid. A glance that dodges too quickly. It's not the words that reveal them, it's the tension behind them, the silence after. People don't hide because they're liars. They hide because they're wounded. And wounds don't speak, they flinch. So don't ask them to tell you who they are. Watch what makes them uncomfortable. That's where their real self begins. Machiavelli would say, you don't defeat an enemy by forcing confession. You defeat them by observing the cracks they don't know are showing. But this isn't about enemies. It's about seeing the hidden child behind every armored adult. Machiavelli's first psychological truth is this: everyone wears a face they hope the world will accept, a steady voice, a polished smile, a mask stitched from fear. But Machiavelli knew the truth doesn't live in their charm. It leaks through tension, a flinch, a pause, a laugh that lasts too long. You want to see someone clearly? Don't watch how they shine. Watch what makes them twitch. That's where the real person begins. Machiavelli knew the sharpest truths don't come from what people say they love, but what they claim to hate. Mockery is camouflage. Outrage is misdirection. When someone obsesses over arrogance, they're usually starving for recognition. When they hunt down dishonesty in everyone else, they're hiding something they haven't confessed in years. We condemn in others what we secretly fear in ourselves. So if you want to understand someone, don't just study what they celebrate. Study what they ridicule. Ask, why does that bother them so much? Because the things they point at are often the parts they're trying to amputate from their own reflection. If any part of you just felt exposed, good. That means you're ready to go deeper. So, before you forget, tap subscribe, because the next truths don't just reveal others, they reveal you. Words are weapons, but silence is where the bleeding begins. Machiavelli didn't trust language, not because it's false, but because it's too easy to control. He watched for the pauses, the stutters, the questions that made someone shift in their seat, the rehearsed answers that came too fast, or not at all. When someone avoids a topic, they're shining a light on it without meaning to. That silence, it's not empty, it's protective. And what someone protects the most is what they fear will undo them. So listen closely when they stop talking. That's when the truth begins. Be careful with the man who must be seen as good, the one who polices everyone but himself, the one who makes sure the room knows he's pure. That isn't character. That's theater. And often, the curtain is hiding something uglier underneath. Machiavelli saw it for what it was. Not virtue, but vanity. Not goodness, but strategy. Sometimes morality is just superiority in costume. And the louder someone advertises it, the more you should wonder, what are they trying to drown out? Real integrity whispers. It doesn't need applause. Most people don't lie to you, not at first. They lie to themselves so well, so often, that by the time their words reach you, they sound like truth. I'm fine. I don't care. I've moved on. These aren't attacks. They're rehearsals. Scripts repeated to survive what couldn't be faced directly. Machiavelli understood this not as evil, but as armor, a necessary illusion to function in a world where honesty sometimes costs too much. So when someone's story breaks at the seams, don't rush to feel betrayed. They've been deceiving themselves far longer than they've been deceiving you. And that's what makes them readable. Because every contradiction is a confession trying to slip past unnoticed. Where someone boasts the loudest, look for what's missing. The man who reminds you of his greatness is usually afraid you'll see the opposite. The one who belittles others is begging to feel taller by comparison. Machiavelli understood this deeply. The need to dominate is often the fear of being ignored. True confidence doesn't need volume. It doesn't correct. It doesn't conquer. It simply is. So the next time someone interrupts to prove their worth, or floods your feed with curated joy, or stiffens when vulnerability enters the room, don't just hear the noise. Study the signal. Behind the bravado, you'll often find a frightened child clutching an identity they're terrified to lose. Reading people isn't about judgment. It's about precision, compassion, clarity. Because the more clearly you see someone, the less likely you are to hate them. And that was Machiavelli's real secret. He didn't teach you to see through others to control them. He taught you to stop being fooled so you could finally start connecting. The vast majority of human action is not governed by clarity of intention, but by subterranean fear. You will find it in the one who incessantly over-explains, desperate to preempt rejection. You will hear it in the voice that dominates a conversation, not from arrogance, but from a terror of being forgotten. And you will feel it in the silence of those who vanish, fleeing the vulnerability of being seen. Most people do not move toward what they desire. They move away from what they fear will destroy them. Rejection, humiliation, abandonment, the quiet erosion of worth in the eyes of others. Machiavelli would never waste time asking someone what they wanted. He'd watch what they flinched at. He'd study what they protected. He'd ask, what are they terrified of losing? Because beneath every expression of desire is often a negotiation with dread. Fear is the invisible marionette pulling strings behind a mask of intent. No wound hides forever. Eventually, it leaks through sarcasm, correction, mockery. The human psyche has a peculiar tendency. It attempts to destroy in others what it cannot accept in itself. A man who derides emotionality has likely been taught to despise his own sensitivity. A woman who routinely critiques beauty is often locked in a silent war with her own reflection. Criticism, when chronic and misdirected, is almost never about the target. It is about the speaker, their disowned shame, their weaponized self-loathing. Machiavelli understood this as a tactical truth. People attack others to amputate parts of themselves. So when someone speaks with disproportionate contempt, don't be distracted by the volume. Follow the thread of projection back to its source. Ask, what ungrieved pain is trying to escape through this performance? Because projection isn't just a defense mechanism. It's an autobiographical confession. And if you listen precisely, you'll hear exactly where their pain lives. Beware the person who never hesitates, the one who always knows, the one who moves through the world as if uncertainty were a disease. That isn't confidence, it's containment. Beneath the curated posture and refined articulation is often a nervous system at war with its own history. You'll find the tell, a tightened jaw, over-prepared lines, a defensive rigidity beneath the surface of control. Machiavelli recognized this phenomenon in rulers and prophets alike. Those who most perform certainty are often those who fear their truth would cost them power, or worse, love. Sometimes what you're seeing is not conviction, but a burial ground of unspoken remorse. Guilt masquerading as poise. True confidence is quiet, unthreatened. It makes no spectacle of itself. So when you encounter someone who cannot stop performing their authority, don't be seduced by the sharpness of their presence. Look beneath. Because behind that fortress of composure is often a terrified child, still trying to prove they deserve to exist. Listen carefully to those who speak in absolutes. The man who insists he doesn't care what anyone thinks has likely constructed his entire identity around earning approval without asking for it. The woman who swears she's always happy is often standing knee-deep in grief, drowning it with overexposed light. Exaggeration is not power, it is volume, and volume always hides something. Machiavelli understood the elegance of restraint, that those who exaggerate are not trying to persuade you. They're trying to suppress themselves. So when someone's truth sounds too perfect, too absolute, too airtight to breathe, don't believe the words. Trace the noise back to the silence underneath, because what they're trying to silence is where the truth is screaming. There's a specific kind of person who must command every room, schedule every minute, micromanage every soul in their orbit. They will call it discipline. They will call it leadership. But if you look just beneath the surface, you'll see the panic clawing at their ribs. Control, when craved to the point of obsession, is not strength. It is spiritual vertigo. Machiavelli would not be fooled by order. He knew, when the internal world is in chaos, the external must become a cage. So instead of fearing the controlling person, see them for what they are, a frightened child building fences around their own disintegration. the stricter the mask, the more fragile the self it was made to protect. And the moment they stop managing everything around them, everything within them starts to rise. This is one of Machiavelli's most haunting insights. Not the kind found in public speeches, but the kind he would mutter to himself in private. The louder the performance, the more fractured the core. Look around you. Scroll through the carefully filtered lives. Notice the endless declarations. Look at me. I'm thriving. I'm unbothered. I'm winning. I'm unbreakable. But underneath the drama, the sparkle, the applause-hungry poses, is a soul uncertain it could ever be loved without the mask. Performance is not expression, it is compensation, and the person who truly knows themselves doesn't need to be watched. They are already witnessed by something deeper than a feed, more sacred than applause. So when someone's life looks like a billboard, remember, that is not a display of power, it is a whisper of need. You think you're debating facts, but what you're really confronting is a wound. Every belief is a barricade. When you want to understand someone, don't dissect their logic, trace their grief. Ask not, what do they believe? Ask, what did they survive? Because what sounds like conviction is often just a trauma, still trying to defend itself. You want to see someone's character? Give them power over someone with none. Don't watch how they treat their equals. Watch how they treat those who can't defend themselves. Machiavelli knew, true power doesn't announce itself through domination. It whispers through restraint. The one who mocks vulnerability has likely buried their own. The one who punishes failure was raised in a world where mistakes weren't allowed. The one who wins by wounding others is still locked in a war they never chose, but can't seem to stop fighting. But then there are those who hold space instead of striking, who forgive when revenge is easy, who see your wounds and don't flinch. That is not softness, that is self-mastery. Because once you've conquered your past, you no longer need to conquer others. You've met them, the ones who always need to be noticed, who craft stories, entrances, outfits as if their survival depends on your gaze. It looks like confidence, but Machiavelli would see it for what it is, an echo of abandonment, not vanity, but fear of vanishing. When the child goes unseen, the adult overperforms. They don't ask for love directly. They demand it in disguise, through drama, through noise, through spectacle, not because they want the spotlight, but because they can't survive the silence. So the next time someone feels like too much, don't rush to judgment. Ask instead, what would they become if they weren't trying so hard to be seen? Because sometimes the loudest person in the room is just the one who was never heard. They won't admit they admire you. That would cost too much pride. So instead, they attack. They mock. They reduce you to something they can manage. Not because they hate you, but because they see in you a version of themselves they buried long ago. The man who ridicules freedom is the one who gave up his own. The woman who gossips about beauty is the one who stopped believing she was allowed to shine. Machiavelli knew. Envy is not about possession. It's about disowned potential. Criticism is easier than confession. It's easier to destroy what reminds you of everything you abandoned. But when you can see this, truly see it, you become immune to the venom. And when you see it in yourself, you begin the long, quiet work of reclaiming the parts of you you once exiled. No man truly acts from belief. He acts from memory, a memory so old he doesn't even know it's still scripting him. They say people don't change. That's a lie dressed in logic. What's true is this: they repeat. The child who is never heard learns to speak louder than he listens. The one punished for feeling becomes a fortress of facts, unreachable even to himself. The girl who had to earn every smile grows into a woman who performs love even when it poisons her. They think it's choice, but it's choreography, a ghost script written before they ever had a name for pain. So if you want to read someone, don't just ask what they believe. Ask who they were forced to become to survive. Because behavior isn't belief, it's biography. And most people are just children still trying to feel safe in a world that never made room for their truth. You don't need to interrogate people. You only need to observe the repetition. The one who vanishes the moment it gets real, he's not rejecting you. He's avoiding the memory of being abandoned first. The one who flirts with everyone but connects with no one, she's not heartless. She's terrified of being known because the last time she was, it destroyed her. The workaholic isn't driven. He's drowning, trying to outrun the moment he has to sit in silence and hear himself scream. These aren't habits. They're confessions, unspoken, but always visible. Machiavelli wouldn't listen to what they say. He'd track what they do, again and again and again. Because the truth isn't hidden, it's rehearsed, until it becomes a shield, worn so long they forget they're even bleeding beneath it. But here's where you become dangerous. When you stop taking things personally. When you stop trying to fix, to fight, to prove. When you start seeing the strategy behind the chaos. You become the mirror they never had. Not a sword, a reflection. And in that moment, when you choose grace instead of war, you don't lose power, you ascend. Because now you know, everyone's wearing armor, and the ones who wound the most are usually the ones bleeding the deepest. The mirror turns inward. Now, pause. Not just for them, for you. Every pattern you've learned to spot in others, you've seen before in your own story. You've lived it. That mask you mocked, you've worn it. That fear you sensed, you've buried it. This isn't about judgment. It's about remembrance. Because the more clearly you read others, the more nakedly you begin to see yourself. Not the version you've built, but the one underneath, still longing to be seen without defense. This is not where the journey ends. It's where your real vision begins. And if something in you woke up, if any of these 18 truths pierced the noise, don't run. Don't scroll. Speak. Drop a comment. Share the one that hit hardest, because we are not meant to wear these masks forever. We are meant to remove them together. And if you're still here, you're not just watching. You're remembering who you were before the world taught you to hide. And that is power.